everyone, welcome to this channel. If you're new here, my name is Julie Hamati, and on this channel we talk everything lifestyle, travel, and fashion. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so. At this point, we have 38 subscribers, if I'm not wrong. Click on that subscribe button before you continue watching this video. So today we are talking about being an introvert in the workplace. And before we even talk about that, let's define who an introvert is. So I'll give definitions for both an introvert and extrovert, and then we can move on with the discussion. So I do have my notebook here that has the definitions. So I Googled, and these are not my own definitions. These are definitions from Google. So who is an introvert? Typically, an introvert is more withdrawn, reserved, quiet, and prefers to work alone or work in small groups. On the other hand, an extrovert is outgoing, sociable, expressive, and likes to be around people. From these definitions, everyone would want to say, oh, I'm extroverted, because the traits that are linked to extroverts sound so good, like you're expressive, you're confident, and all that. And it's obvious that some introverts tend to have some traits that extroverts also have. Like, for example, I'm introverted, but I enjoy going to social places, like events like blankets and wine, but it doesn't mean I'm extroverted. For me, I just need time to be by myself after I've had like a social experience with so many people, because it gets so tiring just interacting with so many people. And sometimes people associate introverted traits with negative traits. So some will say that introverts are shy, they are not friendly, they are socially awkward, but I don't think that's the case. I'm introverted, but I don't think I'm socially awkward. For me, I tend to be loud in some situations, and this is where I struggle with these definitions on who an introvert and extrovert is, because sometimes I'm loud around people, sometimes I'm quiet, and sometimes I tend to think that I'm an ambivert, because my traits just change based on the surrounding or based on the people who are around me. But anyway, based on that definition, you can say you are an introvert if some of these statements describe you. So if you're quiet and reflective, if you prefer to befriend one or two people, or if you enjoy being alone or with very few people, and you spend much of your time like thinking about things or reflecting, then you are likely to be an introvert. So how do you become an introvert? People are just born with these personalities. Also, the environment you grew up in influences whether you become an introvert or an extrovert. For example, if you grew up in a household where your parents encouraged you to speak up, chances are when you grow up, you automatically will be an extroverted. You'll have an extroverted personality. I tend to think that these personalities can change, or you can work from being an introvert to an extrovert if you want to, because some of these traits you can learn based on like the things you read or the people you interact with. So really, I don't think it's permanent that because you are born as an introvert, that's who you become all your life. I feel like these personalities can change based on circumstances, based on where you are, based on who you interact with, and all that. I'm not a scientist. This I'm just saying as Julie. So just maybe to share a little bit of story about my personality. So in 2019, after I graduated in 2018, and then in 2019, I got an internship opportunity in a non-governmental organization. Growing up, I didn't go to the best school, so I had struggles with speaking in English, and I wasn't confident enough speaking out. Now, when I was in the non-governmental organization, when I was doing my internship, I wasn't very comfortable speaking up in English, because in primary school, secondary school, and also in university, I used to speak to people in Kiswahili. So now just changing that to an environment where I'm required to speak in English was a bit intimidating for me, and I would judge myself so harshly when I would make grammatical errors. Does it mean I wasn't sharp? No, it doesn't mean that way. I would do everything that I was required to do in a good way, and I would deliver whatever was required. But then I would feel some type of way when I express myself in English and somebody jokes about maybe an error that I've made, and that made me not speak out a lot, especially in meetings or in spaces where there were many people, because I felt judged. And so in different meetings, I would just keep quiet and not share my views, even when I thought there were views that needed to be heard. And sometimes people or some team members would say things that I was already thinking in my head, and then I would just be there and beat myself up and be like, Julie, you already thought about this thing. You should have said it before they they say it. And so that confirmed to me that I'm really bright and sharp, but then because I do not want to share my ideas openly, people don't know about that. And the worst thing is, in some workplaces, introverts are not awarded because you don't share your ideas with people, and if somebody hasn't interacted with you closely, they will not be able to tell if you're a smart person or not. They'll just be like, oh, that lady is so awkward, she doesn't say anything in meetings. And so in when I was doing the internship, I noticed that some interns who were also in that organization and were extroverted were being given more opportunities and more responsibilities than I was. But when I looked closely at what they were doing, I was like, these are things I can do. But then because I wasn't speaking out for myself, opportunities will just be given to other people and not be given to me. And I remember even making friends was a problem, and I would talk to the same people. And every time I would see, for example, I would see someone going upstairs and I'm also going upstairs, I would I would just remain behind so that they go, because I wanted to avoid having conversations with people. Like, I didn't know what to tell people, and I also didn't think I was interesting enough for people to listen to me, so I didn't want any form of awkwardness. And I remember even when we had like team building activities, I would be so anxious, because for these team building activities or annual meetings, you would be required to like stand in front of people to give a presentation. And my supervisor would always tell me to do the presentation on behalf of the programs team. So yeah, this was tricky for me. And I would be anxious the whole morning until I do the presentation. And then after that, I would be like, what was I even fearing? Like, everything is going to be okay. So over time, there are a few things that I've learned, or a few things that I've done that have helped me navigate my introverted personality in the workplace. So one of the things that I've done is to read and prepare for meetings. So for me, whenever I know I'm going to be in a meeting, I just make sure I look at the agenda, I read through whatever has been written there. If it's a brainstorming meeting, I make sure I have my notes ready, so that when I go to a meeting, I'm able to contribute into the discussion and give proper input. The other thing I've done is always say my point whenever it comes to my brain before somebody else says it, because once somebody else has said it, then it becomes difficult for you to like say it again. So for me nowadays, whenever I think about any important point, I just say it. I also feel like I've met really good people in my journey. Like in my previous job, my supervisor would encourage me to like be aggressive and speak out. And even in my current job, I've realized that my supervisor, from time to time, when we're in meetings and I don't speak out, she tends to call my name and ask if I have anything to add. And this has encouraged me to like speak more oftenly and just share my ideas with people. The other thing, when I go to networking events or spaces where I do not know people, and if the invitee list has been shared, I make sure I look at it and check if there are people who I know there. If yes, then I just make sure that those are the people I will lean on when I'm in that meeting. If not, I go on LinkedIn or just search for their names and then check any interesting information about them. And then when I meet them, then I know how to start a conversation or what to talk about because I've already read about them. And usually people love to talk about themselves. So once you start like a discussion about something you read about them, most people are willing to talk about it. The other thing, for social events, for me, if I do not know someone and the event allows for me to go with a +1, I just go with someone I'm comfortable with, whether it's my colleague or my partner. That way I know for sure I'll have someone to speak to and it becomes less awkward, because when I'm speaking to my partner, I'm sure like somebody else will come and maybe speak to us, and then because he's extroverted, I can lean on that and then just have a discussion with different people. And then in new spaces, I've realized that you can reinvent yourself. Like you can tell people different things. Don't lie to people, but these people don't know you, so you can just have your confidence up there and tell people whatever they want to hear or whatever you feel like sharing. And funny story, someone was recently sharing with me that he was dating a certain lady who every time they would go to a social event, she would tell people that she is a pilot. In other meetings, she will say she's a tailor. Okay, I'm just guessing these professions, but like she would tell people different things about her. Anyway, people don't know you, so you can always reinvent yourself. Don't lie to people, but just move confidently and share whatever you're comfortable with. And then learn to speak up. Like in this case, even if people encourage you to speak up and you do not work on yourself, it becomes difficult for their efforts to be felt. And the worst thing about life is this world doesn't award introverts as much as it awards extroverts. So you just have to push yourself and speak up and share your input. And lastly, you need to practice active listening. So for me, I realized that most of the time when I would go to networking events, I would be very uncomfortable, and every time somebody would try to speak to me, I was always thinking about like the next question I would ask them. But really, you just need to listen to what someone is saying, and that will help you form a conversation. So try your best to listen actively, and then you will know what to say next. If you do not listen, then it just means the conversation that you're having will not have a proper flow, and people will be like, oh, it's so weird talking to that lady. So listen actively. I'm also still learning, and I really hope that I continue to practice these things oftenly, because I want to be in spaces where I'm comfortable speaking with people and I'm confident enough to just show up as myself. And I really hope that these tips help one person or many. But I just wanted to share my story with you, and I hope it encourages you to show up authentically, and don't feel sorry for yourself because you're an introvert. Anyway, as I said, I feel like you can work from being an introvert to an extrovert if you want to. And I don't think introverts are shy or underperforming or not effective because they don't speak loudly or share their opinions loudly. And also, if you have introverts in your team, then that's a good thing, because they tend to be like reflective, and most introverts just want to create harmony. So introverts are also amazing people. Anyway, let me not continue rambling. But thank you for being here. I really appreciate your support. Remember to subscribe to this channel, and see you on the next one. Bye.